Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsey, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my partner to the east, Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm great, Brian. I'm ready to sing the song of HorseCenter.
Sing the song. I have no idea what you're talking about, Matt, but the first topic that everybody wants to talk about, oh, that's what you were talking about. You're talking about Songbird. Wow, was she impressive out at Santa Anita, the Las Virgenes? If we were worried that she wasn't going to be as good at 3 as she was at 2, those worries are put to bed.
Absolutely. She continued to do what she was doing before, and I don't know, maybe she even did it a little bit better than she did last year.
I'm willing to say, yeah, it looked better. Now, she beat Land Over Sea. Nothing, no great shakes in the field behind her, but I don't think Land Over Sea is a bum by any means. Maybe no Rachel's Valentina in there like in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies the last time we saw her, but this was just so impressive. Matt, frankly, she reminds me a little bit of Ruffy, and she just runs the horses off their feet early and keeps on going, and she looks like a woman, a fully grown woman against little girls.
Yeah, Brian, it's funny that you bring that up, that you bring Ruffian up, because in getting ready for the show, I started to think to myself, how good is Songbird? So I said to myself, you know what? Go back and look at and see the kind of times and kind of fractions and kind of margins that Ruffian was running in her races as a 2-year-old and at the beginning of the 3-year-old season. And I don't know, I guess I kind of had a thought in my mind that there wasn't going to be any comparison, that what I saw in Ruffian's past performances were going to be in some way different from Songbird, but I was wrong about that.
Yeah, Songbird matches up so far. I mean, she's only had 5 races. The best 3-year-old filly I thought in totality of the season was Rachel Alexandra. And of course, this is another daughter of Medaglia Doro. She reminds me a little bit of Rachel in that way, but just the sheer power of the speed and the way she's basically put these races away so early. Yes, I do have to invoke the Ruffian, which has been almost 40 years ago now. But that's what she reminds me of. She is something special. More tests, more hills to climb. Obviously, one of the tests could come in early May at Churchill Downs. Now, I think most people want to see that happen in the Kentucky Derby. The ownership, Fox Hill Farm, Rick Porter, the trainer, Jerry Hollendorfer, are pretty insistent that this filly is headed to the Kentucky Oaks, not the Kentucky Derby. Matt, in your eyes, is that the right decision?
Well, I think it's a very complicated question, but I certainly agree with some of the things that Rick Porter said, especially when he said, I don't want to run my filly, my valuable filly, Songbird, in a 20-horse field on Derby Day. And I agree with that. And you have to think back to when 8 Bells in the Derby, and of course Rick Porter owned 8 Bells, and not just think about what happened, but the repercussions of what happened with 8 Bells was really tremendous through the horse racing world. And personally, for Rick Porter and for 8 Bells, it was trainer Larry Jones. I know it was just devastating for the two of them. So I understand their reticence to run this wonderful animal in that same setting. Between the lines, I think maybe I heard that later on, and there are a lot of great opportunities for her to face the boys later on.
Yeah, I think she's a racehorse, Matt. That's my opinion. Hello, she's a racehorse, and I happen to think she's also the best racehorse of her age right now. I think, I believe she's better than Mohaymen. I believe she's better than Mor Spirit, at least right now. She's a racehorse, and the Kentucky Derby, that's why you get into the business, frankly. The Kentucky Derby is the big one. Now, having said that, I'm all for the owners and the trainers making the decision. Uh, Songbird is speed. She'd go out in front in the Derby, and probably how I feel right now, she'd go to the lead, much like Winning Colors did, and not look back and just prove she's a little faster than the boys, her competition right now. Obviously, there's the 8 bells thing. If this was a different ownership, a different person, different trainer, although Jerry Hollendorfer is generally a conservative trainer. He's never won the Derby. Rick Porter's never won the Derby. They're going to race the horse. Why not race the horse in the big race? I don't know if there's a level of being stubborn here where they're saying this was their decision a while ago and they're going to stick to it no matter how good she is. The points thing doesn't really mean a lot to me, because I think if she goes in the Santa Anita Derby, for instance, instead of the Santa Anita Oaks, there's no doubt in our mind that she would run well enough in there to earn enough points to be in the Derby. So it's an interesting decision. It seems like the decision has been made, but I'm not going to believe that until it is made in reality. There's still a chance, and I think it's worth talking about. Is she the best 3-year-old in the country in your eyes, Matt?
Brian,
You're a
I'm
bigger
not
Heyman fan than me.
I'm not entirely convinced that she's the best. I think she's fantastic. I think she's terrific. But I guess I'm got a little bit of Missouri in me that I need to see it. I need to see her beat the boys. And I think if you're asking me, do I think that she can beat the boys? I think the answer is yes. And I think that we will see that later in the year.
Well, I think she's the best. I think if Mohayman or whoever matched up against her right now, it would be them, the males, that would have to show me that they can run with Songbird. That's how I feel right now. She's that good. We'll see how it all shakes down. But as of now, she is very much Kentucky Oaks bound, not Kentucky Derby bound. Matt, there was another big 3-year-old prep race, Kentucky Derby prep Saturday at Santa Anita. And the winner was, as expected, not a 1-20 shot like Songbird was against the Phillies, but Mor Spirit was expected to win the Robert B. Lewis, and he did so, although at the 8th pole he was still third, Matt.
Yeah, and I think this is getting to be, we're starting to get used to the running style of Mor Spirit, that he sits in that stalking position, and once he gets rolling, it gets impressive. And once again, I think that happened in the Santa Anita Derby. Going in, you and I both said he needed to show us a really nice performance, and he did just that.
Yeah, and the Robert B. Lewis, it almost amazed me how long Gary Stevens was willing to wait. There was a quote after the race where he said, I thought I might get to the lead even later. That, frankly, is showing a lot of confidence and maybe a lack of respect for who is in front of him. Obviously, for Mor Spirit, it's only going to get tougher. But Matt, the way he levels off late after Gary Stevens finally asks him to go, the way he has that low head in his running style, and the way he's gobbling up ground or stretching out for earth in that stride, that last 16th of a mile. Frankly, again, I'm throwing out, it feels like hyperbole here because I'm throwing out big names, but it reminds me a lot of AP Indy at this point in AP Indy's career. AP Indy was not winning his races by a ton either, but he was just almost professional and finishing the races like, okay, let's wait until I'm ready to run, and when I run, I'm going to win. And with the low, again, the low head running style that Mor Spirit has, that's who I see a little bit. Obviously, AP Indy wasn't able to run in the Kentucky Derby, but he won the Belmont, and then he was the Horse of the Year after a Breeders' Cup Classic win. Folks, by no means am I saying Mor Spirit's going to do all that, but I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed, and obviously Stevens, Mor Spirit showed a lot of speed early on. Stevens has been able to do what he wanted with him just to have him ready for the Kentucky Derby and have a horse that he can handle and ask when he needs to handle. So Mor Spirit for me is very high on the list, and a real Kentucky Derby contender, and I liked what I saw Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. He's high on my list. He is still not above Mohayman on my list. I think like you said, Brian, Mor Spirit had shown more speed earlier on. I'd like to see I'd like to see that burst of acceleration down the stretch in one of the prep races to come, because often you need that in the Derby.
Yeah, that's true. And for him, the burst of speed is coming late. So you would think that Gary Stevens would be able to use it a little bit earlier in a race like the Derby. All right, Matt. So we talked about Songbird. We talked about More Spirit. Can I throw in a little plug here? This is a plug for a favorite of mine. Matt, you know who my favorite horse in training is? Frosted. Wow. What a performance in Dubai, folks. If you missed it last Thursday in Dubai, the prep for the Dubai World Cup, or one of the preps for the Dubai World Cup, Frosted made his first start as a 4-year-old. Huge performance in the Al Maktoum Challenge Round 2. Matt, I was happy to clam. Frosted looked like about 10 million bucks to me.
And may I just add to the Dubai scene? Hey, you know what I love, Brian, is that we Americans are going into the Dubai World Cup holding a pretty strong hand, because we got your favorite Frosted, we got everybody's favorite California Chrome, and hey, this Miserwish going is going to go over there too, and that horse has been terrific since getting on the dirt. So that's a part of the whole Dubai scene that I'm particularly looking forward to.
Absolutely. The Americans look loaded. I think if Frosted's going to win the World Cup like I want him to do, it's going to be an American that he beats, whether it be California Chrome, M. Shawish, Keen Ice, whoever's over there. The Americans look like the ones to beat, and that's nice. All right, Matt, let's get to the Derby talk for next week. I think we have a very interesting Monday in store for us. We got two stakes. Santa Anita has the San Vicente. Oaklawn Park has the Southwest. The San Vicente is the one I want to talk about first, Matt, because it features the 2-year-old champion, the undefeated 2-year-old champion, Nyquist, and one of the horses we both have high on our list, the son of Curlin, in Exaggerator.
Yeah, that's a terrific matchup. Keep in mind, Brian, right, that it's 7 furlongs. There are no Derby points attached to that. And I don't think it really matters much for both of those horses. Nyquist already has 30 points. And looking back in Derby history, I think that's enough points for him to be in the race also. As a lot of people have been saying, the 7 furlongs is a terrific distance for Nyquist to be starting out his campaign with. And we know that Nyquist is just going to have one more in the Florida Derby after this for Exaggerator. This is just a first race. I don't know if we know if he's going to have one or two more races before the Derby.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, Matt. 7 furlongs is how they used to do it when we were watching the greats of the 70s, of the 80s. They would run these 7 furlong races. I'm excited to see the race. I don't points. You're right. I could care less about the points. I think both of them already have a bunch of points. I think if they're good enough, they'll get more points in the next prep. But this is two of the best 3-year-olds in the country, and this is how they're starting the year. Nyquist has been training great. Exaggerator is a stakes winner sprinting as well as 2 turns. I'm very excited to see it. I think Nyquist might have the advantage at 7 furlongs, but having said that, I could see both of these horses running good races. Silver Charm used this as a prep years ago, and it was just a good hard prep where they really had to work at 7 furlongs a little bit and really got them ready for all the hard 2-turn races that were coming. So last one they met, of course, was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Nyquist was better. Exaggerator had a little trouble early and then hung late. Should be a good race. We're excited to see that one.
Yeah, right. And we certainly have to keep in mind that for both of them, this is their first race since the Juvenile, 3.5 months about in between races. So, you know, in who knows how many ways, that's got to be a factor.
Yeah, true. Neither have to win on Monday, but I think it would be nice to see both run well and kind of see where they are now because, Matt, we're just a little over 12 weeks away. Actually, by the time that race is run, it'll be less than 12 weeks. Also on Monday, I'm actually going, Matt. I'll be down in Arkansas, Oaklawn Park this weekend, and I'm going to see the Southwest Stakes on Monday. There's just a gaggle of horses that are going to line up for the Southwest. I think Baffert might bring another vulnerable favorite. Now, Baffert has just had a great success history in 3-year-old races, including last year, of course, with American Pharoah. But so far this year at Oaklawn, he brought in the heavily favored Toes on Ice, who performed pretty badly in the Smarty Jones. I think he might go favored on Monday with Collected, although the sham was not fast. The stakes he won in California and the horse he beat, Let's Meet in Rio, was just no match for Mor Spirit last week. So Collected, to me, might be beatable in the Southwest.
Yeah, and of course in the Southwest, you also have the top three finishers from the Smarty Jones, which I guess you could kind of say was a prep for the Southwest, the first stop on the Oaklawn Park Derby Trail. You got the top three finishers in there. The race that was won by Discreetness. Again, a nice performance there, but again, not a fast. But we have in the race one of our under the radar horses who isn't so much under the radar anymore. But Brian, you and I both liked Whitmore after his maiden race going into the Delta Jackpot last year.
Yeah, I think the horses that are coming out of the Smarty Jones, we're talking about Discreetness, the surprising Gordy Florida, and also, of course, Synchrony, are all interesting horses, but none of them, in my mind, are real contenders just yet or Grade 1 horses yet. Actually, of the three, I might like Synchrony moving forward the best of the three, but I'm really excited to see the Son of Pleasantly Perfect, trained by Ronnie Moquette, and that is Whitmore, as you mentioned, Matt. He was just so impressive in his maiden at Churchill, an allowance sprint at Oaklawn. In between, he was rushed to the Delta Downs Jackpot and couldn't handle Exaggerator and Sunny Ridge that day. But I think I'm expecting a lot of improvement here, and Whitmore will be my pick, and maybe a horse that could really develop as they go longer, and an interesting horse.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Brian. I think the three from the Smarty Jones are nice horses, but I don't think they're Derby winners. And I'm going to look somewhere else. And I agree, the Collected, didn't wow me. So, but horse is going to take a lot of money on the Baffert name, and I'm going with Whitmore also.
Yeah, it's nice to beat a favorite if you can, like we did with Keen Ice in the Don last week. Yeah, Collected, the Smarty Jones horses, a few others in there are nice-looking young allowance horses. Somebody might develop, but my feeling really going in is if there's a Derby horse in the Southwest, his name is Whitmore. Matt, we have a lot to look forward to again next week. We're going to be talking about the races we just previewed. We're going to talk about races coming up. The Risen Star is looking really good in a few weeks at Fairgrounds. Any closing shots for this edition of HorseCenter?
Right, Southwest is the last of the 10-point winner Derby prep races, and then we move into the 50-pointers. So everything's getting bigger and more important. And you're right, Brian, the calendar is turning. It'll be Derby time before we know it.
It's good, Matt. I'm getting more and more excited about Derby every week. We're getting close. Folks, as always, we are brought to you by the best tournament site in the business, Derby Wars. Thank you for watching another edition of HorseCenter. We're glad you're here, and we want to see you next week.